lot of people that suffer with PTSD, and those people don't have to go to war to actually suffer with PTSD. Today we're going to talk about a lot of reasons why people have PTSD, and thank you for everybody that's coming on. You also are invited to ask any questions that you would like answered, or specific things that maybe you're going through. Anyone that's on Periscope, please just go ahead and slide to the right at any time that you feel you'd like to share that with your followers. So PTSD is something that happens when somebody has been through a trauma. And trauma can either be a small trauma or it can be a big trauma. But the big traumas are the things that you have been through something that was very traumatic at some point in your life. Those things can range from anywhere from abuse, car accidents, seeing somebody killed or hurt. You can be in war. You can be in domestic violence. You can also witness violence maybe between parents. There can be all kinds of different things that can cause PTSD. But what happens with PTSD is that your body you have been threatened in some way. And so your mind, your subconscious mind and body are feeling at times that you're in that fight or flight mode. My name is Worley. And the thing is that when you are in this fight or flight mode, everything inside of you is working overdrive. And eventually what happens if somebody is continuously in that overdrive feeling, then they are going to start to burn out things. And there's a lot of things that are happening when you have PTSD. You begin to have depression. You can have high anxiety. You might have sleeplessness. You might, if you've had a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma events in your childhood, you may also have things that come up as an adult where you start to become sick. Maybe you haven't learned boundaries, and so maybe your boundaries are out of control. Maybe some of your behavior is out of control because of what happened to you. You also could possibly have different things like drug addictions. That's common with someone who has PTSD. Just short term rather than getting processed. Yes. Yes, so when there is a trauma, what happens is the subconscious mind stores all of it. And when the subconscious mind stores all of it inside your mind, it can be easily triggered. And that's why you'll hear a lot of people, if you had this experience yourself, they'll talk about they have PTSD. And sometimes they don't know when this feeling of maybe even rage might come up, or they don't know if they're going to be in a horrible mood one day. It's just hit and miss. And that's because your subconscious mind is holding what has happened to you, every little bit about it. And so in today, like as an adult that you're living, or something that's going on with you today can be easily triggered of the past. And I was listening to a few people on YouTube today about PTSD, and I wanted to really share a few things. Yes, it is a living hell, and I want to clarify this, because the reason I'm sharing this today is because of this probably one statement that I saw. Somebody said, you know, you can learn to live with PTSD. And I'm going to share with you that you don't have to live with PTSD, that you absolutely 100% can release the traumatic event or events and the feelings. You do not have to live with it. And I encourage you not to live with it, because there's many, many, many ways that you can release what happened to you, and therefore the PTSD will leave. Now, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about different alternative ways, healing modalities that can literally go into these events that have happened to you, that have caused trauma, and that you can release what happened, the emotional pain of it all, so that it no longer bothers you. So that's the goal. Because just because a traumatic event has happened to us, we don't want to live in a state of depression or fight or flight or anxiety or all the other many things that can happen to us because we have been depressed or because of the trauma. So what we're doing is, I felt very, very strongly about doing this because of a very strong impression that came to me. And that is, I have put on and this summit that I'm doing. It's called the Worldwide Transformational Summit. The idea behind this is that we've invited 19 different people to show people how they can overcome whatever they're struggling with. And in this case, I'm going to speak to you specifically about PTSD. We have several people who are either the founders or top leaders in the world who are helping people with PTSD all the time over the world, overcome it, letting it go completely so they can live a happy, joyous life. And it is because of that that I feel very, very passionate about letting you guys know that PTSD is something that you can change in your life if you know how. Most people don't know how, and that's why I want to share that. And I want to also share that, you know, I've heard some statements with people. I'm a life coach. I see a lot of people who have trauma, and you know, they feel like they're broken, and they feel like they don't have any hope, and they don't know where to go, and they don't know what to do. And not only have I worked with a lot of clients, but I myself felt that a very long time ago. Is I had trauma, and this is called complex trauma, where complex trauma is something that is repeatedly done to someone over and over. And so they will have complex, excuse me, I'm sorry, I said complex trauma, it's complex PTSD. And so what happens if you've been traumatized over and over again, you are going to develop this PTSD. Now, what do you do with it? At the time, I didn't know. I spent 20 years in talk therapy, and all I had was a memory, all the memories of everything that happened, but I had nowhere to go with the pain. And so I did have depression. I was a functional person, so I coped with things, but I always had that low-grade depression, and it was just that horrible feeling inside. Sometimes you don't even know why you feel that horrible feeling in your stomach or wherever I held it in my stomach, and it was like getting up every day was almost sometimes a dread because of what had happened to me. But some miracles took place in my life about 10 years ago, and that is why I'm really, really passionate, because I have had probably the most traumatic experiences that most people probably will never go through. And I can tell you today that it's okay. Like, I'm happy. I think of all that stuff. It absolutely 100% does not bother me one bit. It doesn't bother me. It has no charge. I don't feel depressed. I don't feel unhappy. My life is better than it's ever been in my life. So how did I do it? Well, this is what I did. I basically was fed up. We'd spent a lot of money in talk therapy, and I still was feeling horrible all the time. And okay, yeah. So anyway, the thing is that what I end up doing is I said a prayer. I'm like, God, surely there's something that helps people. I know you don't want people to just live like this. And literally a week later, I found a modality called EFT, and that stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. For most of you, I don't know if you'll know about this, but this is a tapping modality that you use the subconscious mind and the body to and tap on meridian points that acupuncturists use, and it releases the emotions that your body has stored at a very deep level. It helped me tremendously because I already knew what happened to me, but sometimes people don't know what happened to them. You might have reasons, like you feel like something happened to you in the past, but you're not sure what. That's just a common thing that your unconscious mind will do for you, because if you go through a traumatic event and it's too much for you, your mind will block it out and suppress it for you, because you cannot handle it at that time. But what happens is that you get a response later in your life. You know, so I'm going to say, like, we'll start with this time period. If you're a child and you've had traumatic events happen, okay, your mind, you probably couldn't handle it as a child, so you may have suppressed it, blocked it out. That's what I did. As an adult, though, it becomes harder and harder to do that. And what happens is you start to have the PTSD symptoms of whatever may show up for you. I think mine was depression. And so if you don't know how to release what's happened to you, it's just stored in your mind and your body, and you're constantly accessing it. You're constantly getting triggered. You're constantly feeling the stuff as if it was real now, because your unconscious mind is linear and it doesn't know the difference between time then and time now. It's real to the unconscious mind. You have to go in and change that and release it somehow. So back to my story, about 4 years later after EFT, or maybe it was 5, I'm not sure, I found faster EFT. And that was a different kind of tapping modality, which helped me tremendously, really, really made huge, huge changes in my life. And so right now I would say definitely because of my experience with the 2 tapping modalities, my life really changed, where my relationships are so good and I have a great career and just opportunities that I never dreamed possible, especially 20 years ago. I didn't have a lot of hope. I will be honest with you. I really did not at that time. And so what ended up happening after that, I have used different modalities through the 10 years, and I'd like to mention them because they're on our summit. And each of these people that I'm going to talk to you about are people that deal with PTSD and help people completely release it so you can be free. And isn't that really what we all want? We all want to be free. We want to not have the depression and the anxiety and the fear. I mean, that's so common with PTSD because you're so used to being in this fear state because your life at some point, maybe you felt threatened, and your unconscious mind is continually producing this fight or flight mode, this fear that you don't know why it's not happening now. You may be even in a cafe and you're completely safe, and somebody says something and all of a sudden you're triggered and you go back to that trauma, and it's all as real as it possibly could be, and you start to have those reactions. And the great example that I like to give is what your subconscious mind does is, let's say that you're going down the highway and you're on a certain road and a certain song is playing and you get in an accident. Okay, so the unconscious mind recorded all this. Now what's happened is it's 5 years later, you're going down the same street, the same song comes on, and immediately you start to have a panic attack. Why? The reason you have a panic attack is because your unconscious mind said, oh my gosh, here's the song, here's the street, we're going to get in an accident. It isn't real, but to the unconscious mind it is. And you start to you might even sweat, you might get sick to your stomach, you might even feel pain in your body, because all that memory is still very alive in you. And what we want to do is to release that out of your unconscious mind and your body. Once that is gone, you might say, well, I'm always going to know what happened. Well, that is true. You always will know what happened. But the difference is that it's not going to bother you. It would be simply as saying, you know what, I'm going to the store today. Now, you think, oh my gosh, I don't believe you. That's crazy. How could that possibly be? Well, I'm going to say from my own experience that it is absolutely true, because I had the worst kinds of abuse all of my life. And in the standard view a long time ago, most people thought I would never be able to overcome it. This is something I will live with every day, and I would just have to live in hell every day, and always have these thoughts and feelings and memories, and and then of course there's a lot of anger with trauma, and to be able to have that released. And it's not that I'm perfect right now, because I'm definitely not. But what I can say is that I'm in the best place I've ever been in my entire life, because I have worked very hard on using different modalities, that we're going to be on the summit. Let me go through a few so that you guys can have some ideas to help yourself with PTSD, because please believe me, you don't have to live with it anymore. Okay, so we have a worldwide summit. It's going to be a 9-day seminar. It's free for everybody, so you can go there and listen to how you can help yourself overcome PTSD. We have Steve Rame, who is hypnosis. We have Peter Levine, who is somatic experiencing, and he works with a lot of sexual abuse and trauma in the body. And Vienna Steibel of Theta Healing. Let's see, Penny Kroll with Meta Health, Richard Gordon, Quantum Touch, and we have Dawson Church with EFT, Robert Smith with Faster EFT, David Berselli of TRE, Tapas Fleming with TAT, and Sharon King with Matrix Burst reimprinting, and we have Dr. Bradley Nelson with the Emotion Code. Bruce Lipton will even be on here, and Dr. Richard Bandler with NLP. These are all different ways that you can help yourself change and feel good. some of the things that also affect PTSD are our loved ones. So when we have PTSD and we have people around us that know we have it, most likely they're not going to understand. And I know that in some cases people don't feel comfortable about sharing with them, like with other people, what's going on. So we kind of try to hide it the best we can. And yet the people close to us know that we're going through something. But sometimes it's important to also maybe share what you're going through if you feel like they're safe enough, so that you don't have to carry the burden alone. And get some help so that you don't have to suffer with PTSD, because you really, really, truly are not alone. There's so many people that are working with this in their life the best they know how. And don't put yourself down, because everybody does the best they know how at that time, and you are coping the best way you can. There's so many different reasons we can have PTSD, and we can have the small traumas, we can have the big traumas, but it doesn't really matter, because it's all painful and it's very hurtful, and it affects our life, and it affects the people that are around us. And sometimes people, when they've been around it, let's just say you have a spouse or a partner or friends, and they know you have this PTSD and you're always down, and just whatever behavior is going on with you. A lot of times people don't stick around, and that's also very painful, because it makes you even feel more alone. And so from my heart, I want you to know that you don't have to live alone in PTSD, and that you can truly have help. And so please go to our summit. So it is at www.summit.com, and it's a free registration for 9 days of people helping people who are struggling with PTSD. We have all kinds of people that can help you, and you find the thing that works the best for you. We're giving away this week David Purcelli. He is the founder of TRE, and he works with a lot of people who are suffering with trauma and war trauma, because you don't even have to be a soldier to have war experiences. We have a lot of refugees that have trauma from war as well. And anyway, he helps people all over the world with trauma and PTSD. And so we're giving away, if you register and share and like this week, we're giving a free lifetime membership with his webinars on his website, and you would have access to any of his material. So be sure to register so that you can have a chance to win of that. And we're also giving away this week a weekend at Robert Smith Faster EFT. He's giving a weekend away, and he is very good at dealing with PTSD and abuse and trauma, that he can teach you ways that you can help yourself with that. So I think that will be enough today that I can talk to you about. Next week I'm going to be talking about sexual abuse and how you can overcome that. It will be next Friday at noon. And again, I want everybody to just know that if you want the help and you're willing to help yourself, I am showing you that there's like a whole bunch of different ways you can help yourself. You don't have to live alone, and you don't have to live with PTSD. It is not something you have to live with for the rest of your life. So please, please, please help yourself. And if you're unsure of everything I've said, please go to the summit, because it is free. It is online webinar. Everybody in the world can go in your own home, and you can listen to it, and you can find, if you have these problems with PTSD, you might have depression, you might have whatever you have. And if you have a lot of sadness and hopelessness and sleeplessness and addictions, whatever it is, if you go to the summit with your problem in mind, I promise you, you will get more than you've ever bargained for. You will get answers to your questions. It's a technique I've used over the years, and I love it because it always works. If you go to the summit, and I've used this in different areas of my life where I have went to something with specific things that I wanted answers to, and every single time I have gotten so many answers that really helped me to help changed my life. And I'm in deep gratitude because most of the people probably don't even know this. Some of them do, but most of the people don't know that on this summit, almost every single one of them has touched my life deeply and made a change so that I have the life that I have, and I'm so grateful. Sorry I'm crying, but I want you to have such a wonderful life too. And if I can come from such a traumatic experience of living in my life as a child and teenagers to a life that I feel proud of and that I feel good about and that I like and love myself. And I know that sometimes when we're struggling, we don't feel that. And that's one of the biggest gifts I feel like I have. And not only that, but I see life in a whole new way, and it's exciting and it's fun and it's interesting, and it's a way to keep going and living and having a great life. And so please do what you need to do to help yourself so you do not struggle with PTSD any longer. Thanks again for listening. And again, the summit it's called the Worldwide Transformational Summit. We're also on YouTube if you want to check out some of the clips of the speakers. But we are giving away 2 gifts if you register this week and share and like. And that is from Robert Smith, Fast EFT Weekend, anywhere in the world. And let's see, David Berselli at TRE. And he's giving a lifetime membership to his webinars and access to all of his materials. I hope that you'll be there, and take care.